This is my full stack issue tracker MERN project by James Flores for the fall semester of 2023, application web development. A little bit of background on the project is I took this project on to learn how to make a full stack front end back end website that responds well with each other and functions in different ways for different users with different permissions. I was able to learn how to use all these different external tools and dependencies to make a website function correctly and look professional. I also learned how to correctly handle errors and search for the mistakes throughout my code in this process. If I was able to repeat this project in a similar way, I would like to encrypt more of the data that I brought directly from the front end to the back end, that also implying that I would like to include more data overall, and possibly include other types of data such as images or sounds. The database that we used in the beginning was Mongo database. We started out with two collections, bug and user. They originally contained only just fields like title, description, steps to reproduce, and then farther down the line we added more such as classification, assignments, bug statuses for opening and closing bugs, as well as comments and test cases. And then in the user, we kind of remained the same with the same information we started with. I was able to successfully deploy my application to the Google Cloud front end and back end, and you can see that in the screenshots right here. On GitHub, we started out using just the back end repository for the code to see kind of how it functioned. And then when we got to the front end, we did open up a second repository and ended up combining the two later on in that process. This is just some of the code from the front end and back end. On the back end, you see server.js, and in here I screenshotted the part where you can see our cores or our origin, where you can kind of tell where we started at with the local host and then moved forward to actually launching it to the Google Cloud on the active route right there. And you can also see the JWT secret getting hashed with the auth token in the middleware right there. And on the front end code, I screenshot some of the imports on the app.jsx from the different routes that we used within the code in the components folder. And then here on the permissions table, these did kind of fluctuate a little bit throughout the process of making this. Now they're kind of a trickle down effect with the roles. So the starting role is actually a customer now instead of developer, and customers have certain roles. Developers are the next tier up, and they have all the roles of the customer and some. Quality analysts have all of the developer roles and some, and then from there the quality analyst, business analyst, and product manager kind of differ when it comes to assigning, classifying, and opening and closing bugs. And then the technical manager kind of is the CEO, if you will, and can kind of update and assign all of them as well as edit the users. And what the issue tracker can really do is, the point of it is it can register users and new users in a database, and then it can also log in with those users already created in the database. You can view bugs once you are logged in that are created by users. You can edit, certain users can edit and update bugs stored in the database. Certain users can classify bugs, certain users can assign and reassign bugs, certain users can open and close bugs. All users can comment on individual bugs. Some users can view users. Some users can view specific user data, and then other users can edit users' information stored in the database. And now we'll get to the live demo. So as you can see, when you first open up the web page, it brings you to this home page of the bug list. But if you aren't logged in or have an auth token already in the page, then it's going to ask you to either log in or create an account if you don't have one. So we're going to go ahead and create an account. And here it'll take you to the register a new user, and you can see you have a given name, family name, email, password, and you need to confirm both your email and password. And there is error handling for each of these fields if you don't enter in values for it. So if you try to register with no values in any of these fields, it'll handle that. So we'll just go ahead and make an fake email, and we'll act like we're not gonna correctly put that in, and I'll do password with an extra D at that. So let's see what happens here. So now it'll tell you that we need the actual address. So let's see if I add an address, but not the same address as my other email. So now we're going to get that the confirm email did not match. So now let's go ahead and enter in valid email, and now we're getting a password error. And now we get it registered. So now starting out with a new user, we have a role of customer, and customers can only really see their own information right here. If they click on their name, they can report a new bug, or they can see the bugs that are currently in the list. So when they're in the list for the bugs right here, if they click on the view more details, they're only going to see the information that's already available to them in the list, as well as the comments on each individual bug. So that's all the customer can see. They can also specifically search for certain keywords in the list. They can search for the age that they were created on. If they don't have any parameters, it searches all of the bugs again. They can search by classification if they wanted to search for just the classified bugs. There are none. If they want to search for the unclassified, they'll get just the unclassified. If they want just the approved, they'll get just the approved. Same thing with the closed, open, and closed status. They only get the closed bugs. They'll only get the open bugs. You can also sort bugs. So if you do the newest creation day first, then you'll see how recently they were created, and it'll go in order from there all the way down. You can sort by classification, all different ways. So if we go into the database and the new user that we just created, refresh this. The new user that we just created had the role of customer. So if I go down in here and I change that customer to a developer, and I update that and apply it, when I go back in here to log out and log back in using that same credentials, you're going to see some of the information comes up a little differently now. So now when I view these bugs, I'm going to see who it's assigned to, the classification of the bug, and the actual bug status of it, whether it being open or closed. So I can't change any of that information, but now that information is available to me. Now if I log out again and I go back in here and I change his role to quality analyst, I update the database and apply it. When I go back in here and I sign in now, now with the quality analyst 1, you'll notice two things being different. When I go in here, I can actually change the assignment of the bug. So now assign the bug to a developer. So now all of the people in here. Now if you go to, I'll kind of fix this actually. If you go into here and search all the users, now all the users, you'll see this nav bar wasn't there before. All the users are available in a list for all the quality analysts or above in their role. So now I can view the different users, and if I want to sort by just developers, you'll see there's 4 developers in here, 4 people with the developer role. So when I go to my bug list and I assign to a developer, I'm only going to get the 4 developers that are actually in the database. So now I can assign these bugs to a developer, and you'll see if they're reassigned. So instead of Brennan Morrill, we can go to Coop Flow, and you're going to see that they were assigned by me, assigned when, assigned to. You can go back to the bugs and all that information will stay stored. And then like I said, back in the user list over here, we can search by user names. We can go by when they were created, by their role. We can sort by alphabetically. It sorts given name default. You can sort by last name alphabetically. So now you'll see they line up alphabetically last name. Go back to the first name, and you'll see it does that default. If I go back into the database now, and I go back down to the user mark that we just created, and I go in here, and now instead of quality analyst, I give them the role of business analyst, and I update this. When I go back in here, if I log out, I log back in. Now when I go into view more details, instead of the assigning bug, I can classify a bug now. And I'll give it the different types of classifications it can have. So we'll give it an unimproved. So now this bug is unapproved instead of approved. And when I go back here, you'll see that changed in the color of the tag up here, of the badge. So now it's unapproved. Now, if I want to report a new bug, only developers can report a new bug. So now that I no longer have the role of developer, I can no longer report a bug. Or customer, developers or customers. When I go to the users, I can now